Welcome everyone to the PJ's Cast. I'm your host Pierce, alongside of my good co-host Jimmy, Reagan, and Schmitty. But making his triumphant return to the PJ's Cast, we've got our good friend Charlie Roumeliotis. How's it going, Charlie?
It's good to be back, guys. I feel like I am a friend of the show. I feel like once I'm on multiple times on a show, then it means like I'm a friend of the podcast. So,
I thought we established this, but it's been a while.
We
Yeah,
did.
You're
We did.
the OG friend of the show. That's for sure.
That's a nice honor.
We're glad to have you back on. As a matter of fact, the last time we had you on was May 2021, and a lot has happened with this Chicago Blackhawks franchise. A lot of it rough, but and the roughest month has maybe yet to even come, at least from an on-ice perspective. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about in this podcast. So let's not waste any time. Charlie, I know Jimmy wanted to kind of bring this in, but
oh gosh,
I remember.
Yeah. I think this is the coolest thing. Can I get into it? Is that okay?
Yeah, you go.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so you were essentially the beginning of the PJ's Cast. Pierce and I had been recording episodes every now and then on our phones, just about the Hawks. Pierce, I don't even know what silly name we had for the podcast, whatever. But beginning of COVID, I had or was it COVID? I forget exactly.
I think it was before COVID. I think
it was before. It would have been before
I think it was
COVID. Yeah,
because
see, okay, we are. Hey, he is a friend of the show. He knows who we were before COVID. Okay, there we go. But we talked on the podcast, of course. Blah blah blah. Pierce and I kind of fangirled, and one thing we mentioned on there was that the Hawks need to target a specific Greek player, Andreas Athanasiou. Thank you for manifesting that. During a boring season, he's been a lot of fun to watch. I just want to say thank you for making whatever calls you had to make that happen in 3 years' time. So
was it you guys? Was it you guys that replied me the second he signed? Like somebody started
probably. Yeah.
It would be no one else besides us that would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say somebody started pulling up old receipts, and I actually totally forgot that we had talked about this on the podcast. And it was like, I think it was like an reply. Maybe it was to you guys saying like, I'll have to manifest this. And sure enough, or I think it was like trying to manifest a trade. And so it was a signing, whatever. But yeah, I pulled some strings.
I'm glad you did, man. We appreciate it.
Anyways, let's talk about how he's going to be traded at the trade deadline. Look into that, and then there'll be no more Greek players on the team.
Oh no!
I'm trying to pull some strings for the Blackhawks to somehow acquire Jordan Kyrou so they can.
I was going to ask.
Now we're talking.
I know. That's going to be a really tough sell for St. Louis, but that's If one Greek goes out, I feel like I got to get another one in here.
Well, I think if you ask nicely enough, they'll trade him to the Blackhawks. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, who knows? Our timelines might be on the right path. St. Louis seems to be falling off.
I'm sure you could offer Scott Powers to cover the team for like 2 or 3 years. We get Kyrou for 2 or 3. You know, I'm
there
sure
you
we
go.
can work.
They get Powers as a rental.
Yeah. Deadline rental, Scott Powers.
I love it.
I signed back with Chicago in the offseason. That's how it usually goes, right?
I love it.
All right. I wanted to ask first off, Charlie. Lucas Reichel, of course, has been the Hawks' top prospect for about a couple of years now. And, it's been a bit of a yo-yo with him the last year or so. And lately, it's been a bit of the same. He was called up. He had a 3-point game against the who would it have been that game? Oh my goodness! This is my job to remember this. The Flames, it was Calgary. Had a 3-point game. I heard he played well against the Avalanche. I can't say I watched that game, but the game after that, he's back down in the minors. It did very much seem the way that Richardson and Davidson talked about him that he would be a full-time player now, but it seems that might not be the case. And I'm just curious, what do you think is going on there exactly, and how do they handle him going forward?
Yeah, so I think the Reichel being a full-time NHLer was a little bit overblown of what Luke Richardson had said. I think he had said he expects, like at the time, it was the post-game presser. Was it after the Calgary or was it after Arizona? I can't remember which one of the games. Like even when Patrick
probably Calgary, because it was like the hype of the 3-point game. I remember that a lot was happening that night. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually think it was my question. I said, like, even when Kane returns, like, do you expect Reichel to still be here? And I think he said, like, we expect him to get a longer look. I don't think it was anything along the lines of he's going to be full time, like this is where he is, or where he's going to be moving forward. I was a little bit surprised. And by the way, I guess I should say too, I think Luke Richardson said he hadn't talked to the management group yet. Like typically they'll, if there are like some injuries that happen during a game, Luke Richardson will talk with Kyle Davidson and the staff right before he talks to the media. So like if there are some injuries, then they know like what kind of call-ups that they might have to make, especially if it's like before a road trip. So I don't think he had talked to Kyle Davidson and the staff yet before he talked to us. So I don't want to say he misspoke, but I think he was kind of like, oh yeah, we expect him to be here for a little bit of a longer term, not necessarily permanently. So when he did get sent back down, it was kind of like, what the heck was that? Like we were told a few games ago that he was going to stay here full time, and so I think it got a little bit overblown. The one thing I will say, I didn't like the timing of it. Like, I think he probably deserved a little bit more. I fully agree with the decision to send him back down to Rockford. Like, I think that is, I've been consistent with that since training camp, that I think he should spend the majority of the year in Rockford. I just felt like maybe he did deserve a few more games, even though Patrick Kane was going to return to the lineup. Right. I'm not sure why they didn't put him on the first power play unit. It was really weird that last year there was Kane on the right circle, DeBrincat on the left. Like there's really no room to put Reichel, but without DeBrincat, without Strome, Patrick Kane was hurt. So, I mean, they ended up promoting Tyler Johnson. So I didn't really agree with that. And that's where I would have liked to see him get a little bit more rope as far as playing time. But yeah, in those 3 games, I thought he was excellent.
I completely agree. I think the Hawks fan base would agree, even though they might be a little more, I'd say, animated in their response, a lot of them. Yeah. But yeah.
It is hard though, because like, especially during a season like this, when there really is nothing to root for, it's like when there is that shiny new toy, like you just want it, like, okay, well, at least fans can watch Reichel, and I think that's where the tough part is. It's like he gets sent back down to Rockford and it's like, oh man, fans were finally getting excited to actually watch one of these top prospects, and then he gets sent back down. So I think it's better for his long-term development to stay in Rockford. But I just think that's where. And by the way, I should get on the record too. I do not believe the Blackhawks sent him down because he was decreasing their odds to land the number 1 overall pick. I think that theory is way overblown.
Well, tanking the NHL.
No, but anyone who doesn't follow the team on a daily basis clearly realizes that they're not tanking anymore. Like, I can't believe that was a national story when they won 6 of their last 7. I was like, give it a break, guys. It's called regressing back to the mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I guess progressing back to the mean in this case, because they lost like 20 of their last 23.
Right.
Like,
you say shiny new
toy. Get that part out. That's ridiculous. I 100% agree.
Yeah, Schmidt, you're absolutely right. Yeah, they're not getting the first.
God forbid the goalies win a couple games every once in a while.
The tank destroyer.
They also won
the tank and threw it away.
They won 2 games. They won 2 games in November and December combined out of 20.
They had more points in January than they did in November, December combined.
Yeah, I mean, even the worst teams win 1 out of 3 or 4. So yeah, it was a little market correction.
Well, we've talked about this on the show. Like, this is a long season. There's 82 games. The Blackhawks are probably going to lose 50-plus games, but they're still going to find a way to win like 25-plus games.
Right.
No team's bad enough to lose 65 games in a season. It's just not going to happen in this, at least in this type of league. It's not going to happen.
There's just too many games, I feel like. That'd be like actually really hard to lose that many.
Yeah.
Like the only team in any sport I can think of is like that was like the Bobcats like a decade ago. And they went like 7-59. That's like never going to happen again, in my opinion.
Right. And with the loser point too, like everyone just kind of picks up points. It's not like,
or if you're the Hawks, you get both points because apparently they just love playing in overtime. So
right.
Thank you, Bettman.
Yeah. Max Domi just like, I'm going to pot an overtime winner once a month and see what's going on.
All right. The next question. I believe it's Reagan. We'll give the floor to you.
So I think we're like a month or so away from the trade deadline now. So do you think
on Friday it'll be a month till the trade deadline?
So do you think there's any like trade deadline like dark horses?
As far as like individual players for Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think honestly, obviously like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews are getting the most attention, but I really do feel like the 2 players that could really get moved are Jake McCabe and Sam Lafferty. Sam Lafferty specifically, I know he has a $1.15 million cap hit for this year and next year. So you'd basically you're getting him at such a bargain deal for 2 postseason runs, right? So if you are a team, like I think the Bo Horvat trade obviously just happened. Everyone is talking about what teams are going to do at the trade deadline, and literally no one has any cap space. It's just so hard to make deals. So if you are looking for a bottom 6 forward that can also jump into the top 6, I think Sam Lafferty is a pretty good candidate for that. And then the other guy, obviously Jake McCabe, the interesting thing with him, and you're hearing this more and more a little bit, of the possibility of the Blackhawks retaining half of his salary. So you'd be getting Jake McCabe at a $2 million cap hit for 2 more seasons after this one. So it's kind of like, if you think the Brandon Hagel trade last year where Tampa was getting Brandon Hagel, but they're also getting him for 3, or like in their minds, 3 postseason runs, right? So like, I think if the Blackhawks want to move Jake McCabe, I would absolutely eat half of that money and make him crunch that number to $2 million. And maybe you can get a 1st-round pick for it. Or, I threw this idea out on the podcast about like, what if you attach Sam Lafferty to a salary retention Jake McCabe at $2 million? Maybe you just increased your value from a 2nd-round pick and a prospect to a 1st-round pick and a prospect by packaging those guys together. So yeah, I think those are the 2 players, Lafferty and McCabe, that I would not be surprised if they really do get moved ahead of March 3rd.
And also make the team worse by trading Jake McCabe, because he's been amazing this year.
Yeah, this is the Jake McCabe that was advertised when we signed him 2 years ago. When you like, I got to imagine just the whole like limbo with the systems last year really affected a lot of the defensive analytics for some of these guys, because this is the Jake McCabe he's been for most of his career, I'd say. And I think any playoff
injury too.
Oh yeah,
it's just like
casually torn ACL.
They always say, and like I see this in football too. They always say like, if you tear your ACL, your first season back from the torn ACL isn't really great. It's the 2nd year where you really take. So I mean, we're seeing that now with Jake McCabe. It's like year 2 after his ACL reconstruction was significantly better than year 1, where you're basically just rehabbing the knee all summer.
For sure. I guess speaking on like trade deadline targets right now, one name that kind of for the last month or so has been brought up is like kind of like a should he stay or should he go type thing is Max Domi, mainly because of like his fit, and he seems to like being here. And do you think there's a possibility? Like, I think the smart, like from an asset management standpoint, you should move him and get picks or prospects because he's having a good year, and teams would take that if it's half retained or full retained. $3 million is not the worst cap hit. But there's also a part of it that's like you need guys on the team when the kids start coming up. And I think that's a guy that is a good piece to have towards the future. I'm just curious on what your thoughts are on what the Hawks might do with Domi in the next month or so.
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually agree that he could be a nice piece moving forward, especially in the first, like he's bounced around so much in the NHL where it's like Arizona, Columbus, and Carolina. Like it feels like he just has not either. There isn't a place where he's gotten the playing time. He's gotten the money. He's gotten the possibility of playing for a good team, right? It's never it's always been like when he got traded to Carolina, he was playing more of a bottom 6 role, and he was kind of having sheltered minutes. Like with Chicago, he's basically getting everything right now. He's playing with Patrick Kane. He's getting 1st-line minutes. He's on the first power play. He could potentially find a long-term home. Like I'm sure he's tired of figuring out from year to year, like, where am I going to play this year? Right. So I think that's also part of it. Here's what I would say. If I was Max, if you really like Chicago and you obviously love playing for Luke Richardson, what's stopping you from having a conversation with Blackhawks management and say, hey, I want to be around here. Like I like what you guys are building here. I want to help be part of that, maybe usher in a new wave, but maybe I don't want to say necessarily like let's agree to an under the table kind of contract, but maybe like, hey, what are you guys thinking if I do want to come back, and what are we thinking? Is it agreeable? If it is, I would say go get a cup. Like maybe like we're getting some assets for you, and then come back in the summer and we'll re-sign you to whatever, a 4-year deal, right? I don't think the Blackhawks would go beyond 4 or 5, or if it is 5, it would be at a really lower cap hit.
5 would be, I would think, because there's competition to get him. That would be the only reason. If they could get him at 4, 4 is like perfect because that I think takes him till he's 32, if I recall correctly.
Right. So then it's like he doesn't really have to do anything with his home in Chicago. Like if he's renting or whatever, it's not like he has to go move, pick up his stuff. Like if there is mutual interest for him to return, I mean, he doesn't have any no trade protection. So it's not like the Blackhawks are like, it's not like Patrick Kane says, I want to stay here. And, you don't have a choice. Like if there's a market for Max Domi, I would absolutely flip him and then maybe revisit because like you said, Dylan, like you are going to, especially if the Blackhawks get Connor Bedard or Fantilli next year, you want to surround those guys with some guys that can play. Right. Here's the idea that I pitched to on our podcast that we actually recorded earlier today that will drop on Friday.
You have a podcast as well.
Yeah. But, so I thought about like if Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, let's just say hypothetically they don't get traded. So you can retain obviously up to 3 player salaries per year. I mean, I would retain half of salary on Jake McCabe. I would retain half of salary on Max Domi. So now maybe a team is getting Max Domi at $1.5 million, and that becomes more attractive, right? So that's just a possibility if Kane and Toews decide they want to stay. And again, the point remains the same. Then you can just revisit with Max in the summer and be like, hey, come back here in Chicago and we'll take care of you. And also you might be playing with some of the picks that we end up acquiring to get you or to trade you. Right. So it's kind of a win-win.
And he's already shown he's got chemistry with some of the guys. I mean, when Reichel was up, that line with him and Kurashev, I think really seemed to gel. It'd be nice to see all 3 of them back next year when there's a new team around and it's a new, younger vibe. Just my one touch on the deadline in terms of like what the Hawks are looking for in return. Do you think it's going to be more draft pick focused, or are they going to actually try to get some prospects who are like 19, 20, 21 to maybe try to bolster their system even more and not maybe have a couple of older guys in their system? I'm just curious as to maybe what they're looking for in return in some of these trades.
Yeah, that's a good question too, because sometimes we think that all the draft picks that remember, was it this past year where Arizona had like an absurd amount
the
of
infinity stones of second round picks, my favorite trend of the season.
Yeah. So it's almost unlikely that even if a team like Chicago did that, like you're going to make all those picks. Right. And typically I don't even think you can really sign all of them because there's like a max contract limit. So right. So if you're Chicago, the only way I would really want to accumulate draft picks this year is if you really feel like, let's just say hypothetically, they get a second rounder for Max Domi and Andreas Athanasiou, maybe they can get a third or a fourth, whatever it is. You would want to accumulate those so then you can maybe package those, not necessarily to jump up to the first round, but maybe there's a player that's 5 or 6 or 7 teams ahead that maybe you can get rid of your later 5th round pick so you can move up 10 spots to go get the player you want in the second round, right? So I think that's where it is. And I also think it depends on maybe the trajectory of some of the prospects that they're potentially looking at in a trade. Like if there are some players that are closer to the NHL and they feel are knocking on the door, like maybe they can go for it. But if it's like a longer term project, maybe they would just rather have the draft pick and just go pick a guy that they want on their own.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think that's one point that gets made a lot with prospects is sometimes like even if it is a project, they still want their guy. Right. So the draft picks, they could go ahead and go get their own draft pick and control their or try to control their development as much as they can the whole way through. Because as we've seen in the past, you can only do so much sometimes with some of these young players when they're out in London or they're in overseas. So it's just it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what the returns are in the next coming weeks, or if any returns at that. I mean, people are going to get moved, but like you got to kind of tamper expectations. This isn't, like you're not getting like 2 firsts for Patrick Kane. Like whoever thinks that you're going to be very disappointed when the deadline comes around. Like
Charlie, I'm curious. We've seen this about every deadline nowadays. Do you think the Hawks could possibly be one of the teams that kind of moves into that 3rd team spot, moving contracts around, making big trades? Because like you said, a lot of teams don't have cap space. Hawks could definitely pony up some space, or I should say pony up and take on some space. Do you think that's possible, or do you think that's just kind of off the books this year for Kyle Davidson?
Are you thinking if they could be the third party team that's
third party? Yeah, I worded that
kind
of badly, but yeah, would they be the third party? Do you think that's possible?
I think they would need some clarity on Kane and Taves' situations first, just because the limit is 3 per team. So if Kane and Taves are moved, then you basically only have one more player to retain. And I feel like the Hawks would, I feel like the Hawks would be more inclined to do that with like a McCabe or a Domi, where those are the guys that they're retaining. But I will say that that's probably a good idea for next year. Like if Kane and Taves are not on the books, and you know, I mean, that's absolutely a possibility where you're going to have an absurd amount of cap space, and they're going to need to get to the floor too, somehow. So that would be
we talked about that. They're going to be worried. It's probably the first time as a Hawks fan I've ever been worried about getting to the floor and not hitting the ceiling. I think
it's a real thing. It's a real thing, especially if Kane and Taves are not here. Like, I don't know
how
like
$45 million in cap. It's insane.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
You lose 20 plus million caps, 21 million exactly. Yeah. It's a chunk of change.
And I think that segues really good into what Pierce wanted to ask, actually.
Yeah. So, on that topic, like the Blackhawks are going to have money to spend this offseason, and they need to we brought this up earlier, they need to put players around, especially if they get a Connor Bedard or Adam Fantilli or one of these prospects that could potentially jump in. Like, you need players to not only be there, but like actual good players, and not just, with all due respect to guys like Sam Lafferty and Colin Blackwell, like these bottom 6 guys. But
how dare you, Pierce? Come on.
Like, wait, I know.
Disrespect Colin Blackwell. Jeez.
You're disrespecting Jason Dickinson. Unbelievable. He's playing top line minutes, man. You know.
Yeah, Pierce, where are your top line minutes? I don't see you on the top line.
Well, we're going there, huh?
It's getting personal.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, me and Pierce have been talking about this behind the scenes. We don't mean to.
Jimmy, I think we gotta sell the score. We gotta meet somewhere and sell our differences. Anyways, before I was so rudely interrupted, like we saw players like Oliver Bjorkstrand traded this offseason for like 3rd and 4th round picks, and I'm just thinking the Blackhawks could probably do the same, because there's a lot of teams out there that are going to be looking to move money this offseason. Not necessarily great contracts, but not necessarily contracts that are going to, be a boat anchor to the Blackhawks going forward. So a name I keep seeing is like Brock Besser from the Vancouver Canucks. Is not saying that the Blackhawks are necessarily going to get him, but could you see the Blackhawks potentially get a player like him, where maybe he's making a little too much salary to like what he's actually worth, but it's not like a long contract, but a good enough player where you can take them on, and that will help your team and help bring these young guys along.
I thought you were steering me in the direction of Edmonton and Jesse Puljujärvi. I
think we brought that up, like one of the
either one will work.
That works too. Yeah.
I think the challenge. Yeah, I think the challenge with trying to acquire, let's just hypothetically say like a Brock Besser, it's you're giving up assets for him, and you're also then you have to be prepared to pay him as well. And I don't know if the Blackhawks are at a point where they're ready to pay, because hypothetically, if the Blackhawks do get Adam Fantilli or Connor Bedard, and they feel Kevin Korchinski is the guy on the back end, and Frank Nazar is up, and Lucas Reichel is up, like then you have to start paying all those players in year 3, 4, 5. And if you have money already tied on the books, where they already got the Seth Jones contract, so that's $9 million on the books for a long time. But then if you tie it up for a Brock Besser or a player like that, where you're kind of building on the wing, I don't want to say it handcuffs the Blackhawks, but it's probably not something that they would want to do at this point in time. I think what the Blackhawks should do, especially if they land Bedard next year, they should treat the summer at the way Detroit did theirs this year, where they signed a bunch of guys to 1 or 2 year deals, and it made like David Perron and Dominic Kubalik, and I think Andrew Kopp and Ben Sherratt, they signed to 4 and 5 year deals. So it wasn't too long of term, but it was enough where it's like, okay, there's a good supporting cast there. And I think no one really expected Detroit to make those moves with the intention that they were going to make the playoffs this year. I think they made the moves with the idea that, okay, we're going to surround Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider with these veterans on 1 or 2 year contracts, just so they're not swimming underwater. And, if Detroit is out of the playoffs by March 3rd and they're getting some teams biting on David Perron or Dominic Kubalik, then they can flip them for assets, and then they basically just freed up space for the players that they are going to sign that are going to be there long term. So I think that's the way the Hawks should approach it. Just try to I don't want to say strip it down, but not really want to commit to a bunch of salary right now, so they can have that flexibility in the future once they do land. If it's Bedard or Fantilli or Leo Carlson, one of those guys, because they're going to need that room to sign them to their second contracts eventually.
No, I like that. I like that. Again, like we brought this up earlier. Like, fine, this team can suck this year, but at the next year, you gotta try to make attempts to get better. Like, you cannot ice the same team next year and have the same results.
Right.
Yeah. You can't have like 4 competent forwards on your hockey team. Sorry, that's not going to cut it when you have the kids up next year. And if that's how they're going to run this, you're not going to like the on ice result you're probably going to get.
And that's actually why that's why from day one I've said Lucas Reichel should just play in Rockford all year, because it's like, who's he going to? I mean, yeah, there's Patrick Kane that he can play with, but like, imagine if Lucas Reichel ended up staying one more game. What was the game after Colorado? Wasn't it the Seattle game? I mean, what would that have done for Reichel? I mean, he barely would have touched the puck that game. So it's like, it's just, I totally agree that I think if the Blackhawks don't land a top 3 pick, I think it would probably make sense to bottom out another year. But if you do get kind of that piece like Carlson or Fantilli Bedard, I don't see a reason why they would need to bottom out again, especially if Reichel is going to be up full time.
You mentioned that Seattle game. Maybe Kyle Davidson's got some foresight we don't know about, because talk about getting out before the bomb gets off. Holy
yeah,
cow.
that game was wild. I've never seen anything like that.
I was taking
every time I flipped the channel, they let up a goal. It was great.
I woke up and it was like 6-1. I'm like, oh well, it's okay. Then, you win some, you lose some, and I'm like, 9 minutes left in the first period, and I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever seen a score that fast.
This
guys,
I think wrapping up soon. Yeah.
I think I had my 10 observations written by the end of the first period that game. It was
Pierce,
really
I felt like what? It's just a normal Krabby Patty.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! Yeah. There's still 9 minutes left in the first period. Yeah, that was something. That was something.
Just another footnote in this Blackhawks season.
And it's funny because I think people know the Blackhawks are bad, but it surprised me that one of people like, how could the Blackhawks do this? This is awful. And I'm like, this team is awful. Like, it's not that surprising. But
it's like, have we looked at the goaltending statistics at all, guys? Like, it's like,
yeah.
My favorite are Toronto fans when they go, "Oh man, we fleeced them for Peter Mrazek." It's like, "Oh my brother in Christ, this was the plan all along. You don't understand."
Yeah, I mean,
even if this is the best he could do, that's perfectly fine right now.
It's also really funny, like just reading my mentions after a dismal loss, and it's just people are just. For example, they'll like crush Caleb Jones. Be like, what is Caleb Jones doing on this team? He is not. I'm just like
why is Phillips bench for him?
Yeah, I mean, it's so. I'm sometimes I have to remember that Twitter is just kind of more of the over emotional fan and not necessarily the rational fan. But it's just funny. It's like, do people?
It's an echo chamber. Definitely.
Yeah, like did some portion of the fan base do they realize what this season is about? Like, Caleb Jones is probably not going to be part of the rebuild moving forward. So you'd rather have a guy like Caleb Jones out there than Isaac Phillips or, someone that will actually be here. So it's just funny because we all knew that.
But Charlie, what about the 2-3 wins they can get that could completely hamper their chances at first overall pick, but make me a fan feel good? Why didn't you think about that? God.
The same fans that
they might get 28 wins and not 25.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's a very special kind of Blackhawk fan that we're talking about right now. And it's the one, my dad said it best, it's the one that hasn't been to a game since 2006. And that's perfectly fine. But now they're treating it like they are a Stanley Cup team still when they go to the game. And I'm sorry, you just can't do that with this team.
Right.
You can't boo people off the ice when this is the expected product. I'm sorry. Like last year, maybe. That's warranted last year.
Right.
When the team was supposed to be better. And on paper, it looked like they were going to be better, and they were just a tire fire. Like, that's fine. But this year, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
The expectations, we knew what they were going to be this year.
Yeah. Smarten up a little more, guys. Like, geez.
This is how I feel since we started the podcast in, 2020 or whatever. Like, this is probably the most peace we've ever been at the Blackhawks right now because they've actually said what they're going to do. And I'm just like, yeah, they're losing, probably going to lose 50-plus games. But you know what? We know that there's goal insight. So
I forget they literally told people what they're gonna do, and people are still begging for them to win 2 or 3 more games with who's Mawit and who Madonna and what. Like, it doesn't literally. Who cares? Let this team lose. The team should.
Vegas just got $9.5 million on their LTIR, so they're
I
right
saw
up
that.
back into the buyer's market. Let's
Literally
go.
right before we hopped on this podcast is when I saw that. Yep.
Oh man, so who are they gonna go get? Like Timo Meyer? Like let's just throw his ass.
That's literally
you know
what I
what you
said.
said, Jimmy.
Yeah, before the pod started, Pierce mentioned that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, Timo Meyer in division trade. If you're sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
No, I was actually thinking if Patrick Kane wants to go somewhere, that's a pretty good spot.
Dude,
Kane with
Come on.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I'll say this, guys. I talked to Patrick Kane. I think it was like day 2 of training camp, and I remember he was at the BioSteel camp, right? With where like all the best players were, like 30 of the best players. Connor Bedard was there, and I remember like Kane gushed about him.
He's small. It's not going to translate to the NHL.
Yeah, but I was asking him just in a casual conversation, like how was it? Like which players stood out? And he was like, I skated on a line with Jack Eichel, and he's like, he looks great.
Get out.
So
they played at the World Championship a couple years ago. It was like him, DeBrincat, and Eichel, and that was the line.
Yeah.
And it was just
I will say I'm not sure. Hypothetically, like if Kane is going to leave, I feel like he's going to want to go somewhere where he can sign an extension, and I just don't know if Vegas has that in the cards. So it's probably.
I don't think Vegas will trade away Petrangelo's contract and then give that to Kane. Like they'll find a way to get it.
Yeah, they always shave somewhere.
Yeah.
If my thing is, if 88 wants to move, we need Buffalo to start picking up more wins. Because if Buffalo is comfortably in a playoff spot, I think they make that move, and he signs there. But if they're on the fence, they're not going to make that move, and he's just going to wait till the offseason to do that. But
I'm just going to shoot from the hip here with this question.
Wait, hang on really quick. Reagan was going to jump in. I didn't want to interrupt.
I'm so sorry, Reagan. I didn't.
No, I didn't want her to lose that thought.
I was just saying with Kane going back to Buffalo, like with that being his hometown and everything, and like ending his career there could just be like not like the perfect ending, but for lack of a better term.
I think the Buffalo thing is overblown. I think Chicago is more. I think Chicago is more home to him than Buffalo. And but like a couple years ago, I would have thought the same thing. Like Kane to Buffalo, this makes all the sense in the world. I think he loves Chicago so much.
He had a child here in Chicago, like.
And I just think like even when Kane retires, like I think he's going to settle down in Chicago, not Buffalo. So I think maybe like 10-year-old Patrick Kane would have been really enthused at that possibility, but I think he's really.
I get to play with Dominic Hasek. Oh,
yeah.
10-year-old Patrick Kane on the hockey card.
Right.
Like I was
just crazy. Sorry, Reagan.
I would love to see him in his career here, but at the same time, with where the Hawks are currently, I just don't really see that happening.
You know what?
It's hard to say though.
Everyone asked me, what do you think Kane and Taves are going to? Just family members and friends. I'm like, I don't know because I don't think they know yet. Like, I think they keep leaning one way. Like they're like, but I genuinely think Patrick Kane specifically, like, I think he's really wrestling with it because he probably wants to he can probably play until he's 40, maybe even beyond that. So I think he feels like if he leaves, he doesn't want Chicago to be good again without him. Like, I think he still wants to be part. Like with Jonathan Toews is so different. Like I could see Jonathan just kind of hanging it up whenever really.
I feel like he's more open to being traded and being on a contender. That's what I feel. Again, I don't know. I'm not in the locker room interacting with him, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, Charlie,
I agree.
I want to ask, what do you think about Toews? Like, do you think that there's numbers are numbers. I know that this asking for a percentage, maybe it's better to just ask, just words, opinion, whatever.
What's your gut feeling? Like, do you think?
Yeah, I should ask, not percentage. What's your gut feeling about Toews? Do you think there's actually a decent chance that he goes?
So I think, Reagan, if your dog wants to chip in at any moment, let me know.
Pierce, get Stevie in. Let's go.
Pierce, I saw your cat walking around there too. So I feel
like she heard her name. I think she's going back now.
I love it. Here's what I'll say. It feels like Patrick Kane is more likely to stay than Jonathan Toews. That's the feeling I get. But ask me tomorrow and my opinion might be different, right? I think with Jonathan Toews, it's tricky because I did the sit down interview with him a couple weeks ago, and the one thing that kind of jumped out at me is he was being very humble about. I think he said specifically, like, I don't know what opportunities are going to be out there, and I think he was being humble because he's like, I don't know who might be interested in me, and if there are teams that could fit me in. So he could say, oh yeah, I want to go to a contender. And if no one can fit him in and no one's biting, like, well, tough luck. Like he's got to stick around, you know, there's no one that can make it work. So I think that's where he's kind of like, I think he would love to finish his career in Chicago, but we've heard it even over the summer where he's like 5-year rebuild. That does not sound appealing at all. Like he's very just on the record.
My favorite was when he was tone deaf last year, all throughout every locker room interview, or like when we would go on ESPN and Emily Kaplan would ask him and he'd be like, well, I don't really know what's going on right now. And it's just like, can you just give him one quote to where we're not just in the mud once?
He's kind of like, he's just like in denial of the situation.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah, that's what it comes across. So I think if there was an opportunity for him to get traded to a Stanley Cup contender and it was a place where he can see himself playing, like I think he would, like, I get the feeling like he'll probably waive his no movement clause, but I think he's being more humble about it because he's like, I'm not sure what the opportunities are going to present themselves because of how he's playing, his contract, which teams could fit him in, the asset, like it all kind of plays into it.
I think for his defense, when he's a free agent, someone's going to pick him up. It's just not going to be for a giant number. Like the one I think of is when Corey Perry got bought out a couple years back and he just kept signing 1-year deals. And Corey Perry hasn't really lost his foot speed, but all the vision, and now you get to go play for winners in the bottom 6. And like, if Taves can like get that or like humble himself enough, because like it's hard to go from making 10.5 mil to making like 2. Like I don't care what anyone says. That's going to be a very big difference, and that's what it's going to be.
Or you do what Patrice Bergeron did this year, and he's signed for like $2.75 million, and you just make it a 35+ performance-based contract, right? I think he would qualify next year. Or maybe he wouldn't yet. Or I'm not sure. Probably the season after, right?
But still, like, I think he could be set up in a nice situation. And to his defense, there's going to be a market for Taves. There are too many dumb hockey men in this business who are going to say the 3-time Stanley Cup champion, and they're going to want that
leadership.
The one thing I
joke about it all the time. If the Leafs lose out on all these trade deadline acquisitions, do not be surprised when Jonathan Toews is a Toronto Maple Leaf. Do not.
Back to the first. Let's go.
Oh, we didn't get O'Reilly. We didn't get any of these other guys. Get Taves at 2.5 on the third line. There you go.
Let's not talk about that.
Why? Why not talk about that? Why not talk about
No particular reason. Just
you know what?
sort of subject for.
We won't this time. Reason. Anyways.
Well, in 2013, Taves did say that if there was one team he'd play. I remember this. There's this. He had he brought the cup somewhere, and they were like, Taves, if you play one other place, where would it be? And he's like, Toronto. Just kidding, but I don't know. And I was like, I'm like, huh? Like,
really?
No one ever talked about it. No one ever talked about it.
Are you sure you're not making this up? Is there?
I'm not making this up. I swear to God, because I remember being like, I remember hearing that, and I watched it like 5 times over, and I was like, that's a Freudian slip of all slips. Like, what? And I don't know. I just think maybe it happens. Who knows?
I mean,
maybe you just manifested it after 10 years. Huh?
Man,
that's like your Zapruder film right now. Like, did you actually say that?
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Well, yeah. This next few months, like this month in particular, is going to be interesting. We're gonna find out by the end of the month whether Toews and Kane, one of them goes, one of them stays, both go or both stay. And I feel at this moment in time, I really do think both stay. But again, so many things can happen so quickly. Like we just saw Mark Stone is injured. Like, are you telling me Vegas won't at least sniff at the idea of potentially getting Jonathan Toews or maybe Patrick Kane? But I feel for Patrick Kane, like there's got to be an extension involved to be traded, and that'll help the Blackhawks get more. And I think Toews, I think there'll be more of a market for him, but it's going to be harder to retain as well. Like there's just so many facts. Like this isn't a simple one direct decision. Like, yeah, I'm going to go to this team and that's it. Like it's more nuanced than that. And obviously, over the next month, we're gonna find out.
Right.
And
We've
we're gonna
reached the
find
point
out-
where
yeah,
we've reached the point where, well, I guess when we get back and we're on the other side of the All-Star break, is like if I'm away from my phone for like 10 minutes, I like have anxiety. I'm like, oh my gosh, something like, I don't know why I was away from my phone for that long.
That was me. I'm like, I didn't check my phone, and then it blown up. I'm like, oh, Bo Horvat is a New York Islander.
Yeah, I think on March 4th, I might sleep for 12 hours.
At least on the bright side, if we're going off of the last like 3 or 4 deadlines, most of the moves get made like 3 days in advance. So like at least the day of, usually it's not too crazy, but like that weekend before, actually, all hell breaks. Like it's usually that Thursday night someone makes the first big domino move, and then everyone else is like,
someone
make a move.
3 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, and that's the
what, NHL GMs being reactionary. I've never heard this story before.
No,
what
never.
are you talking about?
GMs have definitely never traded for Erica Branson for a 7th just so they can make a move at the deadline. No. Come on, GMs are not that
knee jerk. No, not at all. No.
No way.
They're not dumb enough to put a guy on waivers and then not know that someone would claim him on waivers, right, guys? Like, no. The NHL GMs are not that dumb. Come on. What a clown show of a league. Oh, my gosh. But remember, guys, Nashville's better than Chicago. They're better than Chicago. Remember that.
Oh, my God.
Because they're in perennial mediocrity for the next 5 years. It's wonderful.
That's not a situation I would want to be part of.
We were just a part of it. 5 years. It sucked.
Oh my gosh! I remember when Mark tweeted that, and all these Nashville fans, I know quite a lot.
That's exactly what
they're all like, "Oh, what are you talking about?
Why
That's disrespectful." Like we were there 2 years ago. We were just there. We understand. We're saying that we're glad we're not in your position because we've been there. We say a thing or two.
But yeah, get excited about like Juuso Partanen or whatever, or whoever their stupid rookie is that has 10 points. Like
Tommy Novak.
Whatever, it's fine. Excited. Like I'm just glad that's not our team right now. I'm glad there's at least some direction in the organization nowadays.
We definitely weren't excited about like middle 6 players 2-3 years ago. We know nothing about that.
No, still the thing that makes me laugh the most is if Kyle Davidson made these moves like 3 years ago when we were trying to be good, they'd probably be good. Like every move he made last offseason was like what a winning team would do. Not they go sign Chris Kunitz and Brandon Manning when you want to win good.
Lord, let's go.
Sorry, I'm dropping a lot of shots at he who shall not be named right now. And he deserves every one of them. I won't say it though. Won't say it.
Yeah. Well, the Blackhawks did want. There were quite a few people inside the organization that wanted to tear it down in 2018. And that got vetoed.
Yeah.
So,
we know.
Yeah.
We know.
So about that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotta love the power struggle the last 8 years were.
Reopening old wounds.
Yeah.
But I feel if we keep going down this road, we're gonna take another hour and a half. Just keep going and ending endless circles and hating ourselves. So Reagan, I want because the draft is ultimately going to be the last thing before the season ends. So I want to give the floor to you to ask your question before we kind of wrap things up.
Yeah. So if the Hawks don't land the first overall pick and don't really have that shot at Bedard, who do you think would like best fit the team in like the 2 to 5 pick range?
That's a really good question, especially when it comes to Matvei Michkov. Because I was hypothetically like if let's just say the Blackhawks get number 4, the 4 overall pick. And it's Bedard, Fantilli, and Carlson are the first 3. If you're the Blackhawks, do you pick Michkov at 4, even though he might not be here for at least 3 more years? Or is that way too because he theoretically could be a Kirill Kaprizov. I actually was talking to a scout a while ago, and he thought he was better than Kaprizov. Like he could be better than Kaprizov. So it's like, but I just don't know if you can really sell that to your fan base. That
I don't think you could sell that to ownership.
Yeah,
Rocky's gonna start looking at these. Like, I don't mean to cut you off, but Pierce and I joke about this all the time. Point. If we don't get a top 2 pick, Rocky's gonna start looking at those ticket sales and be like, "Hey guys, this tank's great, but start spending money. I want to win."
Right? Yeah, well, it's just seats. It's really, really hard. If you're maybe Arizona, I would absolutely jump at Michkov because you need like an electrifying player like that to maybe revitalize the fan base. But if you're Chicago, where you're looking at,
are you telling me Lawson Cross isn't getting it done?
The disrespect to Nick Ritchie.
Don't worry, buddy. Nick Schmaltz sure is.
Yeah. So it's a good question, Reagan, because I think it's Connor Bedard, obviously the generational type talent. I think Adam Fantilli, I think he's like close to where Jonathan Taves was at this stage of his career. So like I think of
Canadian
like Adam
boy
Fantilli
playing in college, yeah.
Yeah, think of Fantilli as more of a Taves. So like let's just say those two are off the table. I feel like Leo Carlsson is the next best bet, but I just don't know. He's probably not in the NHL next year. He's probably got another year, right? So that's where it gets tricky. And I don't know is Leo Carlsson going to be a first line center? Is he going to be a dominant first line center? I don't know. Like his skating isn't great.
Yeah.
Right. So like maybe he's more of a second line. So then if you got Frank Nazar and you have Lucas Reichel, those are maybe a lot of really good second line centers, but there isn't like a first line driver, right? So I think it's tough. So I think, like, to your question, I think Carlson and Michkov, like that's where the conversation is going to get interesting, especially if Chicago does land 4. Like what can they sell their fan base, but also like what player would bet? Like just imagine in 3 years, Michkov just gets dropped into the Blackhawks lineup like out of nowhere, and it's just like, wow, it's just this future NHL All-Star is just out of nowhere, as opposed to maybe drafting a guy like whoever's after Michkov, and it's just like, well, he might not be as great, but we like him here now. You know,
well, I think if we get to that scenario, we're going to find out just how much faith that ownership has in Kyle Davidson for his rebuild plan. Like, how much rope.
Yeah, I'll say there's what we would say, and there's what Rocky Wirtz and his bank account would say.
Yeah. Well, it's a business though too. It's not necessarily that they wouldn't want to. I mean, yeah, they wouldn't want to wait 4 years, but it's also the Blackhawks haven't. Their attendance has actually been pretty decent this year. But it's just if you're going to lose Kane and Taves, you gotta sell something, you know. So it's also part of it. It's not necessarily Rocky not wanting to wait 4 years. It's also like they got to make sure that the fans are staying engaged with what the rebuild is and where it's going.
That's why
they're yelling at you about
we will have a top 2 pick. Bettman knows how important Chicago is. Like I'll be the first to say it, and he did it a couple years ago in New York and New Jersey. He wants the good market to be good.
It's all staged.
Let's not pretend like LA didn't just get a number 2 pick a couple years ago and a number 5 pick. Like he knows when he needs his good markets to be good. We're not dropping below 3 in my eyes. And if we do, like Pierce said, there's going to be a lot more questions than answers. Let's just put it that way.
You can have that opinion, and I'm not going to push back, but I will say there are so many things that would have to happen for the lottery to get rigged. And if it ever got out that it did get rigged, it would be a massive lawsuit for the people that. But it was funny. It was funny though, that New York draft, the Lafreniere draft. Remember how they unveiled the lottery balls and like the guy fumbled the Rangers one, and it was like, oh, man, and of course the Rangers won. Like it was hilarious.
I remember that Toronto one almost beat out the Rangers ball. And, that happened.
I'm just saying that I'm saying that as a joke mostly, but deep down, Bettman knows he needs Chicago to be good. That's all I'm gonna say. Like,
I mean, I think we can all agree that if Bedard goes to like Arizona, it would just be a disaster for the league. You know. I refute. Like we've joked about this on the show. Anywhere else, just do not rot him in Arizona for 5 years. I will never forgive that. I will never.
Even Columbus would be good. You get Gaudreau.
Are you kidding me? He gets the sling pucks with Gaudreau for 5 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, but we're gonna go sling pucks with like. No offense to Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. Like, just get a bigger arena. Like, I don't want him playing. Like, he's playing in front of bigger OHL crowds than what he would play in Arizona. That's a problem.
Bedard on a big stage on the road.
Oh, by the way, regarding that, they're playing. The Regina Pats are playing in Calgary. They sold out the whole Saddle Dome Stadium. That's how big of a draw Connor Bedard is.
Box office.
Yeah,
he's box office, man.
You know what? It's good. The thing with Bedard too is like.
Box office.
We all joked about it because like the World Juniors usually like it gets heightened for most prospects anyway. Like if you score like 5 goals in the World Juniors, it's like, oh well, you know, his prospect rating's gonna go up. Well, Bedard just decided to shatter every single record that we had known, and it's just like, well, now we can't even like not hype him up. Like we can't even like temper expectations. This guy just keeps breaking every like glass ceiling you put there for him. Like he's on like a 21 game goal streak or something.
It's ridiculous.
He's almost at 50 goals right now.
Oh, he's got a 10-game goal streak. 10-game goal streak. 21 in 10 games though. pretty good. Pretty good.
And by the way,
And
I think his very first game this season, he did not have a point. And so every other game he's had since having 0 points in the opener, he has had a point.
And I have to keep telling people who don't follow like junior hockey a lot because they're like, oh yeah, well it's just juniors. I'm like, you need to realize that he's on a really bad junior team right now. It's just him. Like it is like everyone jokes like Connor Bedard and his band of merry men. No, that's actually what that is.
No,
right
that's
now,
just Connor Bedard. It's just Connor Bedard. It's the Connor Bedard show. He's selling tickets. That's how much of a draw he is.
Right.
And like you gotta think tanking teams gotta love his loyalty to Regina and not asking for a trade this year. You got to think a team like Arizona or Chicago's like, all right, well, maybe he'll sit around for the shit show for a couple years. How about that?
Like one of the last like Fuel games I worked that they had like a jersey auction. I think Bedard's team had one like the night before or something. We were talking about it. I guess his jersey went for like $13,000.
Holy cow!
Junior, like
wow,
that's insane.
We've really never seen anything quite like it because it's not like he's McDavid where he's 6'2" and he's 5'9". I think he's barely 5'9".
And I think that's being generous. Like he's barely
also his statistical splits are much different. McDavid was far more a playmaker than a goal scorer. McDavid only the last 2-3 years has cemented himself as a goal scorer in the NHL. Bedard's got a 43-43 split. He's a complete player.
It's guys like if Braden Point and Austin Matthews had a baby. That's basically what he is.
I heard that too. I've heard Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane hybrid.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was just gonna say it's honestly whatever he wants to feel that day. Like if he feels like he wants to score a hat trick, he'll
I'm gonna be a playmaker today and just sling it across the ice. Like
yeah, exactly. I'll have maybe 5 apples today. I'll just be an assist guy, and he's just whatever he decides that day. And he's like
good player.
What is he? He's so massive too. Like, remember when Kane came out in 2007 when he was drafted first? He was like barely 160.
Soaking.
Bedard is like 185, 190. Yeah. He might be more than that. He's a
small guy, but he's a stocky guy. Like you can't knock him on his ass.
His little shit brick house is what he is.
His legs are massive. Go Google his legs.
He's like Crosby. He's got tree trunks.
Yeah, yeah. It's great.
Celebrity legs coming right up.
Yeah.
Oh man. I just really hope he goes to a market that's gonna respect it because he goes to like Arizona. It's just not good for the league. I'm sorry. Like, say what you want. At least in 2015, McDavid was either going to be in Edmonton or Buffalo. Like, that's 2 good spots for a young star to be in. At least in terms of like having a fan base and like actually having a following. I don't want to see Connor Bedard in Arizona. I don't care if that makes me a hater. I don't care. Just don't put him there. Put him anywhere else.
Not care.
I think everyone listening is nodding. Just so you know.
Yeah, just
we've even had like on a couple of prospect guys over the year, and they're just like, yeah, we don't want to see him in Arizona. Like, I think it's sorry, Coyotes fans, to the 2 of you. Oh,
sorry,
yeah. Anyways,
Arizona this guy's like worst nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a great place to live. That's about it.
Hey, at least you don't have to change in the away team locker rooms for the next 3 years. People just forgot about how shitty that is, didn't they? Like it's a terrible arena. Like I bet it's fun for fans, but like I'm sorry, I can't imagine how you feel as an away team walking up to Mullet Arena. Like the amount of disrespect you must feel. It's like I'm changing in a freaking curtain right now in the middle of a giant like atrium. This is ridiculous.
A janitor's closet.
And sorry, oh yeah, you guys have to leave at 9:30 because we have to pull up the ice and get the basketball court ready for tomorrow night. You know, big game with Arizona State. Just, but they're going to get the stadium in 5 years, guys. We only have to wait 5 years.
See, but isn't the arena also like 5,000 people capacity?
Less than that, I'm pretty sure, Reagan. It's terrible. Like the only good thing they do is they leave the section for students. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only good thing they do. Once again, for fans, fine. Everything else is ridiculous.
But I think about it. I work for an ECHL team on game days, and I've worked games with bigger crowds than that.
I've worked single A baseball games with more people than that. Like it's ridiculous.
This is just
I like how this
the roast of the Coyotes.
Yeah.
And it's 100%
front row seat.
Oh, and it's 100% warranted. Let's act like it's not. Let's not pretend like it's not.
Oh, not at all.
No, I ain't disagreeing.
I feel like I can only
been
get myself in trouble if I contribute more to this conversation. So
that's why I was trying to.
Charlie, you know your leash. You can
down.
walk as far as you need to. It's okay.
Yeah, I know, Charlie. Well, I feel we could probably go on for another hour about how Arizona sucks and why Connor Bedard can't go there. But we really appreciate you having on. This next month is going to be huge for the Blackhawks, and this upcoming off season is going to be huge for the Blackhawks. Like these are big years, but I think we needed this change, and we're glad we had you to come on to kind of get your thoughts on how things are going, because I still don't know how things are going to shake out, but
yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun. I shouldn't say fun, but like it's going to be interesting next month, right? And I think March 4th, we can at least all breathe and start to digest. Okay, what does this all mean? Arcane and Dave's here. Now it's like even now, like some of my family members are asking me, like they're looking at Cap Friendly and they're asking me questions. I'm like, can we just talk on March 4th? Because all of this could be irrelevant by then, right? So it'll be an interesting next month.
Very true.
Yeah, Charlie, again, we appreciate you having you on and taking the time to talk with us, and I hope you enjoy your time off for this All-Star break.
I will. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's always fun to chat, and yeah, let's do it again soon. I know
always a pleasure, man.
No, it was too long. It was too long of a gap. We gotta. Have
I know, and part of that is my fault because I know it's just busy. It's busy time. You obviously know, so I wanted to be able to squeeze this in before I left. So I'm glad we were able to do it. And thanks for working around. Pierce, I wanted you to be on here because I know we'd been working on doing this for a while. So
yeah,
hopefully it didn't throw everyone else off.
No, not at all. Not at all.
We're just glad we could get the whole gang here. Like,
seriously, yeah.
We got a whole line and a deep pairing here.
Charlie and I on the back end. We're about to wreak havoc.
No, let's lead from the back end.
Oh yeah, Pierce on the back end. My bad.
Always use a goalie.
My slap shots from center ice. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
well, your Corsi will be great. I'll tell you that.
Pierce's
Corsi's great.
On my screen, Jimmy, you're the center. Reagan's on my right wing, and Pierce, you're on the left.
So
yeah, me and Dylan are anchoring the back end. We just need a goalie now.
I'm the Scott Stevens of this team. Let's go, boys.
You're my Martin Firk.
Let's go.
You're my Martin Firk.
Stevie will be the goalie. We'll get her up here.
Reagan's our Marie-Philippe Poulin because she's the one that carries our team. Let's go.
Yeah. Scores the big time goals.
Oh wait, no, sorry. She's wearing USA, so she's Hillary Knight. There we go.
There you go.
I'm at Steve Conroy's little what's his little skill camp. I'm the fill-in.
All right, let's wrap this
up. Let's end this. Yeah, Charlie, thank you so much for coming on. It was great having this conversation with you, and hopefully the next time we talk, things are going to be changed, but hopefully we have you on soon here.
Of course. Much love, guys.
I got you.